Welcome. Happy Friday. Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. You may be, if you're watching this, if you're listening on audio, you're missing being blinded. You may be wondering if you're watching this, oh, what's the special occasion? Sara, you're wearing a Texas flag jacket, which you guys can't see. It's Texas flag on the front. It says Make Texas Great Again on the back. And you're like, by the way, it's all sequins. And you're like, why? What's the special occasion, Sara? By the way, you can find these at AmericanBeautyBySara.com. What's the special occasion, Sara? Why are you wearing a Texas flag on you? Well, I am because today we are honored with the presence of Dr. Dawn Buckingham. She is, of course, the Texas Land Commissioner. And I just felt like I had to represent. Did I do okay?
You did a great job.
Okay, all right. Thank you. And welcome to the show. We're happy that you're here. Hopefully you will still be happy that you were here at the end of the show. Welcome also Eric July, of course, Blaze TV contributor and founder of Rippaverse Comics, which you guys all need to go check out. I want to talk about something. I was just telling them this off air, but I'll go ahead and say it on air. I want to talk about the tariff situation. And I want to do a little flashback in time and talk about what the Democrats were saying not so long ago versus what they're saying now. But I do want to just say there were several viewers that thought that I was like being strategic, not having Eric on when we were talking about tariffs. That's really not what happened. He just wasn't scheduled to be on. So I'm sure I'll get an earful from him today and we won't necessarily agree, but that's okay. We can handle that on this show. So let's talk about that first. And then I want to talk about some of the things that you guys are doing on the southern border, which I think is very instrumental to President Trump halting the flow of illegal immigration. So you've got the Democrats. They are flailing over President Trump's tariffs like it's the end of the global economy. And I think that while they're doing that, it's very easy for them to memory hole that they were the ones calling for this kind of policy not that long ago. So I want to go through some of these and get your thoughts on it. Let's look at first Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer we'll do a little then and now, shall we? Watch.
Look, I think the president's doing the right thing. China has been taking advantage of us for two decades. They're stealing our intellectual property, which means stealing our good-paying jobs. And I, frankly, am closer on this issue, not on many, but on this issue with President Trump than I was with Presidents Bush or Obama. Trump's trade war, as you see right here.
Oh, no.
This map has how much each state would pay for this absurd, crazy, chaotic trade war.
Absurd, crazy, chaotic trade war. All right, let's take a look at Nancy Pelosi. Back in 1996, Nancy Pelosi, because we all know she's about 250 years old. She has been in Congress for forever. She talked about China like she was, she was going to start the trade war herself personally. Watch.
But the fact is, this isn't about products made in America. The Chinese want American products that are made in China. And the most serious of these transfers of technology are in the airline industry, where Boeing tail sections of the Boeing 737s were mostly made in Wichita, Kansas. Now they are made in Shen province, where workers make $50 a month. And they had the transfer of the technology and the transfer of the jobs has taken place.
That was back when she could speak. She must have not had the vodka kick yet because now she can't understand anything that she's saying. But there is a silver lining in all of this, Nancy. A new Daily Mail report. I really loved this. It says that Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio got hammered by President Trump's tariffs. And I honestly, I'm just joking when I say this. But I read that and I was like, maybe that was Trump's plan all along. He just wanted vindication against his enemies. I'm just kidding. Okay. Let me give you one more here. And I want you guys to weigh in, even you, Eric.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. All right. Then 2008, Bernie, I don't know. He sounded basically MAGA on trade back then. Watch.
Further, what they have said is that we need
to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street, people who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, health care, pensions, throw them out on the street, because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants. We move to China, corporations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country.
That might as well be Donald Trump on trade with China at this point. So it's just, can you give us this at least, Eric? It's just very rich to hear them acting like President Trump is, causing just the world is doomed because he's now said all of these countries that have, by the way, higher tariffs on us than we have ever had on them, that now he's at least evening the trade war here.
Well, this is the point that I've been making forever. Democrats have never been pro-free trade. You've also never had free trade in this country. I hate that everybody states that as if it's a fact of some nature, but it's not. America has never had free trade, or the world rather has never had any semblance of free trade. But I'm glad we played that at the beginning, because this has been my point all along, and that has historically been a pro-Democrat position. They've always been pro-tax, and that's what a tariff is. They've always been that. On imported good, export, doesn't matter. They're pro-tax. They'll tax you for breathing if it was up to them, right? So it's no surprise that they are hypocrites on these issues. And this is what I hate about politics and how we discuss it in this country, because it's become a very sort of spiteful campaign, in that people take positions based upon what they feel like the enemies that they have in their position. So whether it be opposite of that, even if it contradicts themselves from a position that they had last week, they'll do that if it means spiting Trump, if it means spiting conservatives, if it means spiting libertarians, whoever it might be. And I despise that, because it's really not, we're not arguing on principle here. We're not arguing on reality. We're arguing based upon, well, the opposite side has this position. Obviously the tariffs are about to kick in. I've read extensively on this over the last couple of days as reciprocal tariffs. It was awesome to see. He doesn't do a lot of interviews these days. Thomas Sowell weighed in on this not too long ago with Dave Rubin, which was awesome to hear. He's 94 years old, still sharp as he's ever been. And obviously he took my position on him, because my position on this whole tariff thing, because obviously, if you on the opposite, that's who, again, him and Walter E. Williams, everybody knows this, where I got a lot of what I feel about the just general economics today. But my issue with this whole situation, it's less about the tariffs per se and more about the order in which we're doing it. Yes, obviously I'm not a fan of tariffs. Everybody knows that. But the fact that there hasn't been really a monumental shift or change in the regulatory and tax burdens that is levied upon America by the federal government, that is my problem. So you're doing it essentially backwards, where we know that there's going to be people can say all day long that they would prefer that it be this way. We were kicking the can down the road. This Band-Aid needed to be ripped off. We needed to go ahead and do this. It doesn't change the fact that manufacturing, specifically in China, right? I know there's this whole conversation happening right now with Vietnam, but specifically with China, it's America and its companies, both large and small, are very dependent upon them. Now, this isn't just because of their cheap labor. I hate that we always default to this and nobody talks about the fact that, the government has been regulating and taxing its American citizens to crap over the last about 3 decades, especially with regards to manufacturing, which is kind of crazy, where you can't create something in America because of supposedly it's all poisonous and what have you, but you can import it from China. That doesn't make any sort of sense whatsoever. So the fact that change hasn't set in, I'm seeing already right now that a lot of small companies, the bigger ones are the ones that are going to be able to withstand this for a while, but a lot of the smaller companies that manufacture in China are having to make an adjustment because of this reciprocal tax. And that means obviously they're going to have to raise the price of your goods, and eventually that starts to price its people out of the market. I really despise how, when it comes to manufacturing, and I'll stop rambling here for a bit, but in regards to manufacturing, we always, even when we were listening to Bernie Sanders, everybody's talking about the mega corporations. as if small businesses don't exist, as if they also don't get their goods manufactured overseas. But that has to specifically be addressed. It's not about paying more. Even if you wanted to pay a premium, and you know this because you're a small business owner yourself, and we've seen colleagues of the show that have admitted this, when you try to get something printed or manufactured in scale, the infrastructure to do it in America just doesn't exist.
Yep.
It's not about whether you would pay more. That doesn't matter. You can have all the money in the world. The infrastructure isn't there to produce it at all. That change is something that has happened over several decades. It's not going to get back to that like it was maybe out in the 70s. It's not going to happen overnight because it didn't change like that overnight. So because I believe that we're doing this backwards, it's something that a lot of hardships are going to obviously occur among Americans. China is the best suited to play chicken right now, right? And so everybody can talk about Vietnam and all these other countries. Well, they're starting to sway. China hasn't. That's the one that matters.
And I don't disagree with you that we need, this isn't the only piece of the puzzle. We need more than just the tariffs. But if the tariffs are a good jumping off point, in my opinion, if this is one part of an overall strategy to make this more fair, to make all of this trade situation more fair, I'm willing to take the temporary short-term burn in order to course correct. And I want to get your thoughts, Doctor, but I want to play first. Let me play President Trump explaining it himself. He was on Air Force One and he was speaking to reporters. Watch.
And those tariffs have come in, and every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat. If we would have asked some of these countries, almost most of these countries, to do us a favor, they would have said no. Now they'll do anything for us. But we have tariffs, they've been set, and it's going to make our country very rich.
But are you open to deals with these countries if they're calling you?
Well, it depends. If somebody said that we're going to give you something that's so phenomenal, as long as they're giving us something that's good. For instance, with TikTok as an example, we have a situation with TikTok where China will probably say, we'll approve a deal, but will you do something on the tariff? The tariffs give us great power to negotiate. Always have. I've used them very well in the first administration, as you saw, but now we're taking it to a whole new level because it's a worldwide situation.
I don't disagree with him, Doctor. It is a situation that for so long has existed and plagued this country, and it's got to be dealt with. This is something that for decades, I mean, we've seen videos of Donald Trump in, I don't know, his 20s, his 30s, talking about how trade was a completely screwed up situation in this country and in this globally, and that we needed to course correct here. So what say you on the tariff situation?
Well, I have to agree with you and President Trump. I think what he's talking about is a temporary situation that, one, levels the playing field. Mm-hmm. We see lots of hidden tariffs in these foreign countries, and their goods don't suffer the same thing when they come here. We're also realized from COVID how important it is to have manufacturing here. And to your point, Eric, I think you bring up a great point. We need manufacturing here. We need that infrastructure. I'm a strong believer in the market, and I think that these tariffs will incentivize the market to create that vertical structure to get things manufactured back here. And from pharmaceuticals to everything else that we need on a daily basis, that is really, really important. So I also agree with you. I'm not a big tax person. I mean, 100% in line with all that. But again, I think this temporary tool to level the playing field, to drive the market, to bring manufacturing home, and to support up American-made goods. Almost everything you buy, you have a choice. You can buy things made solely in America from America-based products, or you can buy things imported. And a lot of those small businesses that you talk about that are operating over in China, manufacturing over in China, they may just pick up and come back home. And I think we would like to see that as well.
Yeah, we have seen some investments here in this country since this announcement. I mean, what do you think about that? Like, we had Hyundai that was like, hey, we're going to, what was it, 20 billion, 20 million? It's a big number is my point. They've already said that they are going to invest here in America. I mean, we've already had some larger companies that have said, all right, we're going to do this. We've had Mexico that said, we're probably going to come to the table. You had Ontario, who was it, Doug Ford, who said, all right, we're gonna talk. So you've already had some of these countries that have said, okay, not necessarily we give, but okay, all right, fine. We'll figure something out. Because I mean, again, Eric, I don't, you make great points. I think we can all agree on the overall issues. It's just how do we solve them that maybe we disagree on. But I guess my question is, if these countries are now willing to come to the table and we take a little bit of short-term, rip the Band-Aid off, if that is coupled with deregulation.
Well, that's a big if, though.
Well, but I understand that.
We haven't seen. That's my problem, though. I think that's where a lot of people get lost on, and definitely discussing this with myself and others like me with regards to trade on tariffs or the tariff conversation in general. That they miss is that's a big part of the equation. I'd argue that's a big part of the equation, right? Like this not being coupled with the massive, and we keep hearing that it is going to come. This is something we're eventually going to have. I believe that should have happened first. Like, let's alleviate. Like, I don't want to. Definitely with you being on here today, I'm gonna be nice with my language today, right? Because I'm at a couple. We got company here, so I want to make sure that I'm correct.
She's a doctor.
Well, I understand that, right? That's why I want to be respectful here, because the American people have been screwed so much, especially by their own federal government, that absolutely has to be addressed if we're talking about incentivizing people to create here. And that's a conversation that's going to need to be had and addressed right now. It's not really one of those that can be delayed because we're doing it backwards. If we're saying, well, we want to try to force everybody's hands to start investing here, but we're still going to tax you, right? Because everybody keeps talking about what we did before and like tariffs and how it was used to subsidize the government before. Well, that's not what's happening right now.
Yeah.
You're being taxed and regulated to death. Any business owner is gonna feel me on that it hurts. Yeah. And it's coming not from China, it's coming from you. And the one way you can help the American people immediately, right, is addressing definitely the federal income tax, and obviously the corporate levels of tax are still among some of the highest in the world, even though Trump slashed those.
Now, I do want to, I know we got to take a break here in a second, but I do want to say, Eric, I'm saying if they come, I understand that you don't appreciate the order, but if they come, it looks like they will. We've got regulations.gov that the Trump administration set up where you can go in and submit your recommendations for deregulation. Comments are due.
I just put all. That's all I'll put.
All of them submit from Eric July. But so this is clearly something that they are looking at. I understand you don't like the order, but it does. I trust that he is going to do this. It is something that he's talked about doing. I have no reason to not believe that he's going to do it because he's done a billion other things that he said that he was going to do. So hopefully that is coming soon. Otherwise, Eric July is going to keep yelling on my show, and I don't want him to do that.
And look, Trump, you don't want me yelling at Sarah on the show, so
exactly.
Let's get it done.
For the president, please. I can't take it anymore. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and comment on the show. It'll help us in the algorithm because we all know this is totally free for you to do, and we have been making $0 on this show from YouTube for the last 2 years. We've been demonetized, so it's totally free to do that. We would appreciate it. All right, let's thank our sponsor this segment, Birch Gold. So Birch Gold is there for those of you who you understand, you recognize, like maybe you need to diversify. You've got all of these, you've got the stock market right now. I don't need to talk about that. We just talked about all of the headlines. So if you're looking at things and you're saying, I may need to diversify, gold and silver historically has been a really, really great hedge against times of instability, against inflation. And I'm just telling you, if you've never looked at it, if you've got an IRA or a 401k that already exists that's just sitting around, Birch Gold can help you convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. The government is really quick to charge you anytime you change anything when it comes to those things, but this isn't going to cost you anything. Okay, so go text the word Sarah to 989898. All they're going to do is send you a free information kit on gold. It's just going to help you learn more about it. There's no obligation, so there's no reason not to do it. Okay, it is text the word Sarah. That's my name, no H, SARA to 989898. All right, so Texas is, I guess, expanding because we have now claimed 2 strategic islands along the Rio Grande that have been long used as cartel hideouts. And Dr. Buckingham, I wanted to ask you about where you guys are just like, nah, this is our land. We're going to take it now. You guys are no longer welcome. How did this happen?
You want to get something done fast. You want to get it done right. Put a woman in charge, right? So, as Texas's first woman land commissioner, it is super fun to make Texas bigger for the first time in a couple hundred years. And just to backtrack, in case some of your folks don't know about these islands are important. They formed in the Rio Grande by our treaty with Mexico from 1836. Everything north of the center of the Rio Grande is the United States and Texas. However, these islands form, they get vegetation on them, and they don't formally get claimed.
Yeah.
When they're not formally claimed, law enforcement can't step on them. Yeah. Not from America, not from Mexico. So they literally, in this fight on the border, have become safe havens and smuggling centers and full of caches of drugs and weapons and everything else. So we did 3 about a year ago. 2 more just last week. One of the islands happens to be part federal land, part Texas land. That's a nuanced deal. So we need extra coordination with the feds, which, by the way, thank the Lord that Donald Trump won. That makes this whole thing so much easier. We've seen those federal policies shift. We've seen the 95% reduction in people coming across the border illegally. And yet these little safe haven smuggling spots where we can find them, where they are ours, and then we can allow law enforcement, the Texas Military Department, DPS, Border Patrol, to get on them and secure them. That's what we want to have happen.
So these islands that pop up, so you just said, so Texas can't go on it and Mexico can't go on it either. And so it's like all of the people who decide to abide by the law are like, they're going to abide by the law. Then it's the criminals who are like, we don't care whose it is. We're just going to set up shop here anyway. So how does that process work? Do you just let Mexico know, like, we just did a survey and this is like part, here was the line, here's the island, here's your notice that we're formally letting you know we're taking this over?
Yes, we were the last remaining entity from the Republic of Texas. And when we were founded as the keepers of maps and the guardians of Texas history. And of course, the steward to our unowned land, which is 13 million acres today. Wow. Which raises money for public education to the tune of billions of dollars. But that being said, the mapping part, the surveying part of our agency isn't always the sexiest part, right?
Yeah,
and yet, here it is, so relevant, and everyone is so excited about it. So once we determine the center of the Rio Grande, there's really not a question.
Yeah.
It's we just have to look back and see if it's been previously named or claimed, and if it hasn't, then we just go on and claim it, and then we let everybody know, and then we work. We're seeing this wonderful integration, local, state, national. Everyone's coming together, common goal to get these violent criminals off of our soil, to stop this illegal migration across our border, and it's just fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, you guys are making mapping sexy again.
Yep.
Because I think if that's a really sexy story to me. I'm like, sweet, we just claimed the land. Get out of here, cartel. And so when you look at the shift of the tone of this administration versus the prior administration, I mean, you have 3 more MS-13 gang members that have just been arrested. We have Attorney General Pam Bondi, who announced just today this administration is breaking violent gang operations, bringing them to justice, making American streets safer. Here is some of that announcement. Watch.
Today, we're here to announce the arrest of 3 more MS-13 gang members who were in this country illegally, and they were in Florida. And we will be reviewing them. They've all been arrested for first-degree murder. We will be reviewing them to see if we will seek the death penalty. This has been a long-running investigation that started in 2015. The victim in this case was brutally murdered, stabbed approximately 100 times by multiple gang members before he was shot in the head. He suffered tremendously. And these indictments are a warning to all criminals. We don't care how long ago you committed the crime. We don't care where you go. We will find you, we will arrest you, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
Eric, it's almost as if every single person coming across the border is not just innocent people coming in search of a better life.
I feel like we're
Who
talking
knew?
about it almost every other day. And look, I'm glad that it's being put out there to the forefront, because I think on the subject of immigration, there's been a lot of naivety, certainly among people that are more like libertarian, like myself, and that, you know, your ideologues about it. And you want to pretend as if everybody that's crossing the border is just this awesome person that's looking for a new job and looking for new opportunities to try to make it a better place for your family. But that's just not the reality. And I say this all the time. I bring this up. I was born and raised in Dallas, but for 6 years I lived in South Texas, and I saw a lot of stuff with my own eyes that was pretty eye opening. That pretty much peeled me on this subject matter big time, because I'm like, this is for real. This is legit. And more so, and you see how the locals, people that were born in those areas on this side of, let's say, the border, and how they're basically terrorized. That type of stuff sucks. So you hear like be it Bondi or whoever is saying that, look, these people are in your country, right? This isn't like a hypothetical kind of situation. Right. They're here. They've been here probably for a very long time. They were talking about this is 2015, so we're talking about this is a decade ago, right? Yep. So they've been here for a minute, and this is a problem that isn't going to fix itself.
Yeah. Was it, Doctor, was it like an immediate shift? Could you guys feel it immediately after President Trump was inaugurated, that like, oh my gosh, now we have an administration who is willing to work with us and not against us when it comes to strategically how can we fix the problem at the border?
I felt like the air changed in the first minute. Yeah. You know, from him winning. I mean, we just the whole momentum of the country changed.
Yeah.
I think in a positive direction. And
1,000%.
It is a breath of fresh air, and we are so excited. And it is great to just see all of his new cabinet members just blowing and going and doing great things. I'm a huge Kristi Noem fan. Of course, Tom Homan's doing a great job. Mm-hmm. So many people doing so many great things. And we're getting back to the founding principles of our country. The one good thing I can say about the 4 years of the Biden administration is it gave us an opportunity to see how far the Democrats could take us away from the founding principles of our country. And it allowed President Trump the time to really think strategically about how to move as soon as he came back. And boy, they are moving. We were just in D.C., and there's a lot going on, and it's just an exciting time.
Yeah, I love to hear you say that. We say this on the show a lot, that looking back, it all just seemed so, I mean, I was pretty black-pilled, right, during the Biden administration, and it all just seemed so unfair almost. And it's like we might lose our country. And it felt really dark for a while. And then you had the 2 assassination attempts. And then when you look at things in hindsight, you're like, oh, the entire country had to go through every single thing that happened in order for us to really wake up. Well, not us at the table, but for the entire country to wake up and understand what was at stake. And so you look at how President Trump is now. I mean, day one, he was like, go, 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 go. And it's like the country would not have had that perspective, and the president would not have had that perspective without every single thing happening the way that it did, which leads me to be like that. I mean, that was all God.
It was. And it's biblical.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible talks about how all governments are of God, even if they're bad, and the bad ones that people have to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
How to seek the light again.
Right.
And we were in a dark phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're in the light phase.
Thank God.
We're just gonna keep walking in the light.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take another quick break, and then we're going to be back with more. But we want to thank our sponsor this segment, Angel Studios. They're cranking out the content right now, and their newest one is The King of Kings. This is, you know who the King of Kings is. I don't really need to tell you, but it's basically a father telling his son the greatest story ever told. And what begins as a bedtime tale becomes a life-changing journey. The boy, through his imagination, is walking alongside Jesus, witnessing his miracles, facing his trials, and understanding his ultimate sacrifice. It has a high-profile cast of voices, and Ben Kingsley is one of them. You can go check it out. It's beautiful animation and a perfect film to take your family to this Easter. I encourage you to go check it out. You can get tickets. It's in theaters next Friday, April 11th. Get tickets today at angel.com/Sarah. You can check out the showtimes over at angel.com/Sarah. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw this, there was a Turning Point USA table over at UC Davis that they were just, as usual with these people, they're minding their own business, okay? They just have all of their supplies to pass out to all of these college students, minding their own business. They had Brandon Tatum there, friend of the show, Brandon Tatum, and they were just ambushed by Antifa. And according to organizers, they wrecked everything. They ripped down banners. They smashed signs. They tried to take an iPad and a laptop from one of the field reps. I want to play some of this exchange when Antifa arrived at this table. Watch. So those of you who are listening on the audio podcast, they're grabbing the canopy. They're taking it, just walking off with it like little ants marching.
Come on, please, get in there.
They're all masked because they're too chicken to show their faces. I mean, this is crazy. Just walked off with it, and I mean, I have to ask, there's police there. They don't seem to be doing anything, just watching it all happen and following them. So that's crazy. So the police just standing by and watching until the damage is already done. Not quite sure why they didn't jump in sooner, because that is, of course, theft of property. But TPUSA founder Charlie Kirk called it what it is, which is a pattern of political violence. He said UC Davis has become the most militant school in the country, and he's not wrong there. And so it's frustrating because there are so many things that the Trump administration has course corrected when it comes to creating and establishing law and order in this country again. But college campuses are a place where this country really has to figure out what we're going to do to make sure that we have free speech on all sides of the coin when it comes to college campuses, because you've got all of these, pro-Hamas supporters going out there and doing all sorts of things on college campuses, occupying the fields, and nothing happens to them. But then you've got Turning Point USA, activists, and they get all of their stuff raided and stolen and damaged. And look, they have a ACAB sign. All cops are, we're going to say bad. We know it doesn't actually mean bad, but we're going to say bad because that's the point. All cops are bad sign these guys are holding, and the cops are just like, meh, meh. What are we to do about this college campus issue that we have with all of the Antifa violence?
Ooh, I wish I had a crystal ball and I had the answer to that one.
I know.
It is crazy, but that double standard you pointed out is exactly right. I mean, conservatives, one, don't get violent like that. When they do, they're prosecuted immediately, as we have seen. Yep. And yet you see the older lady in her Tesla that got beat up. Mm-hmm. You see the violence and the property destruction happening at Elon's, at the Tesla dealerships. Mm-hmm. You're seeing all these things happening and people turning a blind eye. And yet it's just unfathomable to me that can happen and that double standard can persist.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I at least would say that Charlie Kirk did call on the Trump administration, if UC Davis is not willing to show that they're willing to protect the constitutional right to free speech and free assembly on a public campus. He said the Trump administration should investigate their continued receipt of federal taxpayer dollars. So maybe that's the answer, is you guys don't just get, like, if you're not willing to abide by the laws of this country and the founding principles upon which this country was founded on, like, you don't just get all this free money.
Yeah, that would be fantastic in more ways than...
Eric's like, I just want you to turn the faucet off all the way. I don't really...
If that's what you need to use to justify not giving these corrupt institutions all this money, fantastic, right? Do whatever you need to do. I'm all for it, man. I'm all about strategy, but we have seen in recent years, or rather in the last couple of months, especially after the inauguration of Donald Trump, that at the lower level, a lot of these leftists are starting to act out. Like, what they're doing to the whole Tesla situation is just that's just bizarre, right? And to see that there's people even pushing back on that is really what irritates me. Like, people acting like, well, it's just stuff. And I hate that. I hate that so much. I was one of the ones here making those arguments during the whole COVID situation of the summer of love, when you had people, spots being raided, small businesses being stolen from. People are like, well, you just bend over and take it.
Don't worry, insurance will cover it.
Insurance. And it's like not how it works. And I would love for the country just in general to really start taking a tough stance on the defense of property, because that's from which all rights exist or extend from, right? In words of Rothbard, all rights are private property rights, starting with yourself. And the fact that you own yourself, this is why violence upon you is bad and all that other stuff. But we're so like flaky on any defense of property. It's like people have to think twice about it, because they're like, am I going to go to jail if I defend myself or defend my property, which it should be an extension of yourself, in my honest opinion. And that's where a lot of these there is no such thing as a petty crime as far as I'm concerned. Like, this stuff needs to be punished to the fullest extent. And I think that once America decides to take a serious stance against people just feeling like they can do whatever to people's properties, I think just in general, we'd be a better off country.
Yeah, I agree. And you would think sometimes living here in the state of Texas, you would think that, well, we wouldn't have that issue here. But I mean, you have the cases like Daniel Perry over in Austin, who was pardoned by Greg Abbott because he had his life turned upside down because a bunch of, Antifa or whoever it was that was out there. I can't remember exactly who they were. They were there to start trouble, obviously. And, he had his life turned upside down because they were climbing all over his vehicle. And, it's just so even in the state of Texas, you can't be too sure that you will have the right to defend not only yourself, but your property. What say you, Doctor?
I think you're right. I think it's all very scary, actually. Yeah. And it amazes me to watch, and I'm a huge fan of the police, but it amazes me to watch the police take a back seat on some of this stuff. And back to the Austin case, I mean, that night of riots, they would have burned and destroyed the Austin City Police Station if the Department of Public Safety hadn't stepped in. That same group came to the Capitol. They actually prosecuted police officers when they were shooting the beanbags at the rioters. They said they were using undue force. It came up in a Senate hearing just last week. It's crazy.
I missed that.
And so your poor police are just darned if they do and darned if they don't. Yeah. But Eric, I think you bring up a great point. Behavior only persists as long as it's tolerated. And we need to have a no tolerance policy for people who destroy property and create violence on others.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It should not be tolerated. Not only in this country, but definitely here, not in the state. All right, let's go ahead and take another quick break. We'll be right back. Well, it's not often that you hear a national story about fencing, the sport fencing. You're not usually like, oh, I'm turning on the TV and I'm watching a fencing story. But this week is different because Maryland's fencing competition, the Cherry Blossom Open, did turn into a national story after fencer Stephanie Turner refused to compete against a transgender athlete, Redmond Sullivan. So this female, Stephanie, of course, she warmed up, she walked out there and she took a knee in front of the ref and said, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I am a woman and this is a man and this is a women's tournament and I will not fence this individual. And so you had her take a knee. And the result of that was that she got black carded on the spot, which is, I'm going to assume that you don't know much about fencing, so let me just inform you. I had to look it up too. That is fencing's version of you're expelled. So she was expelled from the competition for not participating against a man. There she is taking the knee, which good on her. I would just say that as I'm watching this, if we had more women who just refused to participate in the delusion, we would not be in the situation that we are currently in. And so you have USA Fencing who are saying, well, she wasn't punished for her beliefs, just for refusing to compete. Okay. So they said, by the way, they said in a post that got ratioed on X, USA Fencing said, hate speech or targeted hate of any kind is not acceptable online or in person. And so I guess I don't know what hate speech they're referring to. I would say it's never hate speech to have a female protect herself from harm of a biological male. B, point out the fact that he is in fact a biological male and biological differences exist. And so now here we are. And we're talking about fencing because still in 2025, you have these radical leftists who are putting women at risk. I mean, remember when they used to say that they were the party of women and that they held up women and that the Republicans were the ones that had the war on women? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like you guys hate women because you're participating in not just this, putting them at risk, but if there was ever a patriarchy to be had, the patriarchy that they screamed about all the time, I would say it's probably men taking over and dominating every single women's space you can think of. Sports, the bathroom, the shower, all of these spaces now are taken over by men who weren't good enough to cut it in their own sport.
Amen, sister.
I mean, it's nuts that this is what we're talking about. I never thought that we'd be talking about fencing. But now, I mean, and you just think about these, I get it. I mean, as a female, Eric, I don't know how you identify today, but I know for a fact that we are females, okay? And as a female, I'm like, I get it. It's hard because you have to think about scholarships that you might be missing out on and all of that, but stop participating. And if every woman just stood up and said, I'm not doing this, it would shut it down that quick.
You know, when Title IX passed, when you had women's sports, when you got some equality with the scholarships with men and women athletes, that was a major victory for women. And yet, what's happening with this trans community and trans athletes absolutely undermines every aspect of it. I was an athlete. I'm a feminist. It hurts my heart, honestly, to admit that men are just bigger and stronger for the most part than women. Okay, it just does.
They are.
But it is a physiological fact, and they don't belong in women's sports.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot because Eric is former track athlete. And it's like, I mean, Eric, you probably should just go and pretend that you're.
Well, yeah, I'd have the women's world record in the 100-meter dash if I did, because my time's faster than FloJo's time. But no, it is a delusion, and the fact that everybody keeps participating in the charade as if, well, this is actually what's happening. They're expecting everybody else to continue to participate. So when they see someone act like they do and to say, "Look, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm not participating in this nonsense," they are then shunned. Instead, in the U.S. fencing, that response is absolutely just disgusting, because instead of being like, or at least trying to rationalize with the situation, they're spinning it, actually acting as if she's the enemy here, and talking about something about hate speech, like or hate whatever.
Hate speech to say that's a man and I'm not going.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to put myself on the line like that, and I want to protect the sanctity of my sport. That's not hate. I don't even know how you could spin that to meaning like hate speech or something weird, unless you're just totally compromised, man. But yeah, this is something that just continues to spiral out of control because we're just not being honest about the simple fact that, yes, definitely in sport, which requires some sort of physical exertion, men are going to be better suited to participate in that, right? There's some sort of definitely like when you want to start talking about maybe gymnasts and some of the stuff that they do where because of their physiology, they're actually better than men in some cases, because men just can't balance like that in some cases, or the center of gravity is different. But that's really the only exception. Everything else, we're going to have an advantage. And that's not a crazy thing to say. And the fact that unfortunately a lot of people within, and that's how they justified this within the medical community, just went along with this as if it was okay. Like we don't have an advantage. It's just mind blowing to me, man.
When you think about the fact that radical leftists have taken over even fencing, that's how bad it is out there in the streets, that even in fencing, they've got people who think that it's appropriate to post some sort of comment about that being hate speech. You're like, wow, we've lost fencing. That's pretty depressing. Side note, I did take fencing in college, and I started taking fencing in college, and then I broke my foot and I had to switch out of it because like I couldn't fence. So I that means that I was like this close to going on a different career path, and I might have been a professional fencer right now. And you can't tell me otherwise.
Let's go with that. I'm good with it.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's take a quick break here, and I want to get to another crazy radical leftist story when we return. All right, speaking of radical left nonsense, students at Iowa State University just held a literal funeral procession for the school's LGBTQIA plus. I don't see the two-spirit in there. They are being very, very, very transphobic for student success there. That was actually a center that they had. And they held that funeral procession because under a new state law, Senate File 2435, public universities can't fund DEI programs unless they are legally required. So the center, as it's known, is getting restructured. Staff roles are changing. And students are like, our safe space is gone. Watch some of that.
We may be losing a name on a center, but we have not lost our community.
Who is that? That's not a student.
Our community comes away from this stronger than ever before. The fight is not over, and in the end, we will win.
That is just pathetic. That is so sad. They held a mourning march as well across campus. There they go. They're all dressed in black, and because they are grieving, of course, and they've got these rainbow coffins. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but it's just like a LGBTQIA apostrophe S to be a drama queen. That's all I'm going to say.
Jesus Christ, man. Like, this is...
That's all I'm going to say.
Performative, man, obviously, but like, it's just, I am glad, if nothing else, that they're starting to tackle that, because it is one of the more rotten things that has plagued this country, is this obsession with look, that's just in name only, diversity, inclusion, and whatever all the DEIs, and they're trying to rebrand it now because they're starting to realize how toxic that the actual term has become. But they're still going to do the same stuff. It does appear, so that's what you have to watch out for. These are snakes in the grass. So just because you might pull the plug on it, like to your point, they'll start reshifting, and but the I guess the activism is still the same.
What was the government agency after President Trump signed that executive order? I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the departments that they literally just they changed their titles on the website.
I remember what you're talking. Yeah, I remember exactly what you're talking about. With it's the same thing. Picture's still the same. Yeah. And everything. They're cheesing, but the title.
Yeah, it was like chief diversity officer, and then the next day it was like human resources coordinator or something that you're like, we have screenshots from just the other day. You're not going to get away with that. And then you have Jasmine Crockett, embarrassment to the state of Texas, who just earlier this week, we played it yesterday, a day before, and she basically said she was a DEI hire, her first job. She said, well, this man asked me why he should hire me, and I said, because I'm black. And I was like, that explains a lot. That explains your entire career trajectory, is that you were a DEI hire. Yep. Okay. Everything makes sense now. So, Doctor, I'll give you the final word on this. She's like, I wish you wouldn't.
No, God bless Texas, right? And the rest of the country as we work our way through this. But, it's the same thing. It's the DEI, it's the hate speech, it's these tags that the left use to shame the right. So the more we can get free of those titles and those acronyms and decrease the regulation in the federal government, the better off we will all be. And again, as long as we stand united and won't tolerate this behavior, the behavior will eventually end.
Amen, sister.